Okay. How did you feel it went?
Writing. I'm feeling pretty good, but sometimes like their questions still kind of baffles me. Like oh, I don't know how to answer that.
I know, exactly. You're like,
Let me double check.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Most of the time you just make it up.
I know.
90% of teaching is decision making. The other 90% is making it up.
Like Reina said, can my villain be the main character? I was like, can it?
Like,
I was like, okay, you know what? Your villain can be your main character if the villain ends up being the good ones. Like, you know, the character changes, but it cannot just be, the villain kill anyone in the end. No.
No.
Because it has to be a happy ending.
Exactly. Unless they end up being the heroine also. I love it.
So, because I don't want to tell them no. So,
No, exactly. But and I also like when they think outside of the box like that, right? Like everything shouldn't be, you will have noticed that, like, I don't do a lot of formulas with things. Like, I don't like to say you have to do this, 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 and this. It's like, well, it should include, or you might think about, like, but I don't like to, like, even the graphic organizer that we're using right now, it's way more structured than I ever have been before. And that has a lot to do with other people's structures next door, you know what I mean? But I'm more free, because writing should be free, right? Like, especially as they get older, they should not have to have like 3 scenes. They should be able to have 2 or 5 or 4.
Yeah, the sing one really got me, you know, because there's so many different places. I was like, okay, does it count as one scene? I don't think so.
I know. Sometimes it's,
So,
sometimes there's 4 scenes in a book.
Yeah,
like,
so I have to choose my mental text really carefully.
Yeah.
Like, I try to minimize.
well, that's okay, because they're not all in 3. Then you say there's 4. That's okay.
Yeah.
Your story can have 4, but it shouldn't have 1.
Yeah.
Like, I would, you know, like, it shouldn't have 1, but it could have 4. Why not? I love how enthusiastic you are with the kids. The kids love it. But I also love not only the enthusiasm, but they're very, like, they know when you say, okay, we're bringing it back together. They're like, okay, like, we're ready. Like, they're very responsive to your classroom management in the sense of you can have a lot of fun with them, but at the same time, once you ask for their attention, they're pretty good at bouncing back.
Yeah, I feel that too. Like from at the beginning and the end. It's pretty much
That's a
really
big
drastic
difference.
change.
Yeah, very much so. The students are very involved. Here's another thing I noticed that you don't always get with classes, which you've done a fantastic job of. Typically in a group, the same 4 or 5 kids are always answering. They're always giving the answers. So when you first started the review, you can see very evidently that not just the top kids understand the story arc. Like 75% of the kids on the carpet were talking to you about what is in the exposition. Like all of them were giving the answer, not 1 or 2. Like when you talked about what happens in the rising action into scene 2, like I noticed that it wasn't 1 or 2 people answering, that it was like over 3/4 of the class, which means that they're all retaining the information and they're all participating, which is amazing. Because oftentimes you have the same kids that will give the answers and the other kids honestly don't even know it, let alone to get it. Like, so so
every time like, I feel like I don't want to pick you again, but you are literally the only one who raised your hand, but okay.
And sometimes I need those kids to speak because I know they're going to give the right answer. And then I'll say things like, did you hear it? If you didn't know it, remember it. Like, so sometimes you have to pick on those kids. But that was one thing I noticed in the lesson that was huge props, was that because you have been the one doing the whole time the story arc with them, right? And so to see that high retention was really incredible. I took a few more notes. I love, like I said, I like how you let them all speak out, and then as soon as you're like, attention, 1, 2, and then they're just like, okay, now it's her turn, now it's my turn. Like, you have a good stage presence with the kids. As far as the actual content went, here's what I love about this unit is what am I trying to say? We intertwine subjects. So
Right.
the story arc, typically a teacher will teach in only reading.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we teach it in reading in the mornings, but then when they're writing their
Yeah.
fairy tales in the afternoon, in order to write a story, you also have to have
Yeah.
your own storyline. So we don't just teach one subject at a time. And so I like that you have learned how to really bring in the conversations from the morning into the afternoon, because subjects aren't meant to be separate.
Yeah.
And you do a good flow of naturally just like a conversation in your read aloud, and then all of a sudden it's from a conversation in the morning, right? So you're really good at not just sticking on like a lesson plan. You're really good at adapting to go with the flow of the conversation and to go with the flow of the mentor text or what the kids ask and things like that. In this particular lesson, as far as the teaching went, I thought it went very well. Right before the kids went back, you very explicitly said, our goal today is, and a few of them didn't have a clue. And you could tell that they were kind of like, now what are we doing? And then you made them all stop and have two kids repeat it. Like, that was really good. To be like, now what are we doing when you go back? Because I don't want you to go back to your seats and be clueless. These are all classroom management things that you've done really well. But in the actual lesson planning, it's clear that you know the standards. You know the expected outcomes. And so by having your goal in mind, you're able to answer questions along the way as long as you're going to get them there. And so that is also the thing I noticed in your actual lesson plannings, is that you set goals for the kids, and we don't say the word standards to the kids. We know in our mind what standards we're meeting, but to make it very explicit, their goals is really good. I have so many notes because it was such a great lesson. I don't want to forget anything.
Aw, thank you.
No, I really liked it. I hope it was okay at the end when I started walking around, because
Oh no, that is completely amazing.
I was like, I don't know if I should be in your video or not, but
Well, the thing is,
I'm not going to sit here when kids are working. I need to be there.
Yeah, that's the thing, I cannot be in so many places at the same time.
Yeah.
So having to check their writing, whether they are actually doing it or not, or whether they know how to do it or not, and then give pointers when needed to. Otherwise, they're just gonna be, writing a big paragraph and then having it to being crossed out at the end. So that's not nice.
Yeah. Well, my feeling is, if we have more adults in the room, all of them should be interacting with children. Because the more feedback they get immediately, the more direct they can respond to it, right? Like, if you're the only one giving it to them, then we read the papers later, they're not getting the feedback till tomorrow.